Grace is such a major topic because it's one of those things like if you was to seek or to do research on grace or you was try to understand what it is, doing a Google search or whatever, people will tell you that it's unmerited favor. They will tell you like it's no, it's favor that we don't deserve. But when you try to get deeper to try to understand it, they will just tell you, churches or pastors and whatever would just tell you like, you know, you know it when you see it. And when you really try to look for an example of this thing in which they speak, they'll come up with all kinds of little dances, all kinds of little wordplay, get your ruach and your spirit and your body shaking and everything. But you would leave more confused than when you came in. You would still not understand what grace is. And then they'll just leave you to believe that you don't have to do anything to receive Yah's or Abba or God's grace. So today, Mishpachah, I'm going to tell you exactly what grace is. Grace, so that when you leave this message today, you will know without a doubt what grace actually is.
Yeah, blessings on blessings, yeah. Blessings on
So
blessings.
let's get into it, Mitch. We on the journey trying to find out what grace is, right? When you try to seek out what grace is, the first thing that they always try to tell you to do, or they'll always bring up, is these verses here. Romans 3:24, and it says, "Being justified freely by His grace through redemption that is in Yahushua Mashiach, being justified by His grace through the redemption that is Yahushua Mashiach." But what does that mean? What exactly does that mean? Continuing, they'll bring up 1 Corinthians 1 and 4 and says, "I thank, my Elohim always on your behalf for the grace of Elohim which is given you by Yahushua Mashiach," right? So we have grace that is given, but is given by Yahushua Mashiach. But what does that mean, right? What exactly, what exactly does that mean? And then they continue with Ephesians, "For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is a gift of Elohim." It's a gift of God. So it's a gift that you're saved through faith. So if you just say that you believe, you'll receive this grace. That not of yourselves, it is a gift. So it's nothing. So they'll lead you to believe that, it's nothing that you can do actually to receive grace. Romans 11:5-6, "Even so then, at this present time also there is a remnant, because of grace, there is a remnant." You see, the remnant is chosen based off grace. But if grace is just a gift, then what do you need to do? Hopefully y'all see what I'm getting at. So continuing in 6, it says, "And if by grace, then it is no more of works. Otherwise, grace is no more grace, but it be of works. Then it is no more grace. Otherwise, works is no more works." That is such a confusing statement. So very confusing. What does grace mean? What does grace actually mean? So, y'all know how we like to do. We got to bring out the Hebrew. So, in Hebrew, grace, which is H2580, which is hen or chain, depending on how you would like to pronunciate it. Kindness, favor, beauty, which is pleasant. So from a Hebraic mindset, it represents kindness, favor, beauty, but it's also something that is pleasant. Keep pleasant in mind. Now, from the ancient Hebrew lexicon, the idea of it is as the beauty of the camp to give or show beauty, grace, mercy to another. The frequency is 69 times, all right? And continue, which just says favor, gracious, pleasant, for better understanding what pleasant means, giving a sense of happy satisfaction or enjoyment. Giving a sense of happy satisfaction or enjoyment. So a person that has grace is a person or individual that is pleasant, or is a person that is gained favor. This same Hebrew word is used for both grace and favor in the Old Testament. Notice that favor has a U in it. If you try to search, if you try to search it at KJV, you may not find it if you don't put the U in there. All right. So this Hebrew word, as I said earlier, is used 69 times, about 36 times to mean grace, and the rest for favor. All right. So the Hebrew itself will have this Hebrew word, but they translated it to say grace, or they translated it to grace or favor. All right. So, but you know that it's always the same word. It was always the same word. So it's always the same understanding. All right. So now, the Greek understanding of this word for grace, it's charis or charis, and it means acceptable, benefit, favor, gift, grace, joy, liberty, pleasure, and thanks. Now you see right here, you see that it has way more breakdowns of what the word mean. All right. If you actually search this in the lexicon, you will see that there are many different definitions for grace. You get the most usage of the word grace, as you see, 154 times in the so-called New Testament. Here in the gospel, we see that it's used only one time in Luke, three times in John. Now from Acts to Revelations, it's used 150 times. Continuing with the Greek, now charis is where you get the word charismatic from. The graces of Greek mythology, right? That word charis, there is a deity attached to it, and it's called the three sisters. They call them the graces, right? And it's the deities of Greek mythology. They're also called the Charistes, sisters, goddesses of beauty, grace, and charm, right? In the Roman mythology, the Roman deity that matches these is called Gratia. Gratia is where you would get the Latin translation. If you check out the etymology of the word, and that's how you get the English translation of grace. So gratia will be translated, and that's where you will get grace from. All right. If you was to Google or look up grace or look in a dictionary, you would see grace as being something of being pleasant, or being something that looked good, or to be soft, or pleasant in that sense, because they get that from the deity aspect of grace. You see, they get it from the graces mindset of it. So when you see and you look up the definition for grace, you'll see like a twist in the breakdown, the understanding of it. Since we already looked into the breakdown of grace, we see that favor is associated with it. But what actually does favor actually mean? So favor here, it means approval, support, approval, support, or liking for someone or something. Pay attention. Favor is approval, support, or liking for someone or something. So it's like you like someone, right? Or to be pleasant, right? But how is favor expressed? We'll touch on that later. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind and think about how exactly is favor expressed. All right. So how do we find grace? How exactly do we find grace? Let's look at a couple examples of how grace is found, right? So we have here Genesis 39, 2 through 4. As I said before, when you look at other videos on YouTube or other teachers or pastors coming out of church, it is very rare that you will find them going to the so-called Old Testament to get a understanding or give you a breakdown of what grace is. We have to prove all things and hold fast to which is good. You know how Goshen Group, y'all already know how Goshen Group works, right? So the first thing that we're going to think about is how do we have any example of grace, right? Because like I said, they will say that it is unmerited. They will say that it's unmerited favor, something that you can't earn or something that you don't deserve in the matter, right? Back to Genesis 39, 2 through 4. And Yah was with Yosef, and he was prosperous. He was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that Yah was with him, and that Yah made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Yosef found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house and all that he put in his hand. So, because he was prosperous, because he was prosperous, Yosef found grace in his master's sight, right? Now we understand that it was Yah that was with Yosef, right? But it's because Yosef was pleasing to his master, all right? He was pleasing to his master. Let's continue. Here is Lot in Genesis 19:19, speaking to the messengers. He says, "Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil take me and I die." Here we see he's making a request now that he knows that he's found grace, right? So that means that it's something that he did in order to find grace. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But what exactly did Lot do to find grace, right? Since it's unmerited. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about coming before the king, right? Because I think when we're thinking about this and we're trying to figure out grace, now we understand that there is a hierarchy, there's a kingdom. I think that understanding the mindset of coming before rulership or a king or emperor will help us get a better understanding of what favor is. Will help us get a better understanding of the power of favor, what favor is, and that will help us, understanding favor will help us to get a better understanding of grace. All right. Here in Leviticus 16:2, right? The first thing I want to bring up is the Levites, because the Levites have to go before the king, and I'm gonna say this in my best voice, the king of the whole universe. He's the king of the whole universe, as Imam Bet loves to say, and she's right. You see, because the Levites have to go into the Holy of Holies, right, and present themselves to Yah. So here in Leviticus 16:2, and Yah said unto Moshe, "Speak unto Aharon thy brother, that he come not at all times into the Kodesh place within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not, for I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat." So that means that there is a ordinance, even though Aharon is the one that can come before Yah. You see, he don't have access at all times. There's an ordinance, there's rules that he must follow, right? There's rules that he must follow, because if he step out of line, he will die. It's the same thing that was mentioned. It's the same thing that was mentioned, if you can think about it in Exodus, when they was at Mount Horeb, and the Father told Moshe to tell the people, "Hey, we're gonna make this line on the mountain, because this line, if they cross this line, I love my people." Now, Abba loves his people, but if they cross this line, I know you can't see my fingers because it's cut off, but I'm making the line, they are going to die. So I'm warning them. I'm warning you because I don't want them to die, but if they cross this line, they're going to die. It is the same thing that's being spoken about here. All right. And now, not only that, but you see, the Levites, Aaron and his sons, right, that come after him, if they don't dress correctly, they're going to die. So here we see in Exodus 28, 42, it says, and thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness from the loins, even unto their thighs they shall reach. And they shall be upon Aharon, upon his sons, when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not the iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever unto him and his seed. So, and also, even when he enters, he has to have the right clothing on. You see, even the crown, even all the everything that he must have on, and to go in to face the Father. Because if he don't present himself right, he's going to die. Now, why does he have to put these things on? Because these are the things that please the Father. Keep that in mind. These please the Father. Because the Father is one thing that the Father says: if you love me, you keep my commandments. Also, if you keep my commandments, it will go well with you. It will go well with with Aharon and his sons if they do things according to the way that he says. You know, because you know what happened when they brought that strange fire, and my man couldn't even weep for him. So these are the things that our Heavenly Father has given us. And these are the things that please him, right? We're going before the king, and we must do things in a manner that pleases the king. But let's check into Esther, and let's see how Esther gains favor. Before I actually talk about what Esther did to find grace, right, or to find favor in the sight, let's see what a queen must do to lose, to be a disgrace, right? Esther 1:10-12, the king here has thrown a big massive party, right? A big party, for the people, for everybody to party and to have a good time. And now he sent all these messengers, all these servants right here, right? So it says, on the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Bizatha, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abigatha, Zetha, and Carcass, right? Kakarkas, that's a crazy name. The 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, right, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on, right? But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by the chamberlain. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned hot. Now, it's more that goes into this, but for the sake of time, I'm not gonna go all the way into it. But Vashti was known for being disobedient, right? Now, as you see here in verse 12, it says that the king, who was once pleasant and happy, became wroth. And because of that, he decided that, you know what, this is somebody that's not pleasing in my sight. I'm going to get rid of her. So that's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. She lost favor because she did not please the king. Keep that in mind. She did not please, right? At first, she had favor because he wanted to present her beauty. It's a beauty that was pleasant to him and share it to everybody else. But nonetheless, it didn't work out that way. So now let's look at how Esther found grace, right? So it says here, Esther chapter 2, verse 17, says, the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti, right? So Esther pleased, right? See, the king loved Esther. We see a difference. No wrath, is loved Esther, and because of the love that he had for Esther, she obtained grace, favor in his sight. All right. So link those with these other examples So link those with the other examples that we've already read. Now we're starting to get a better sense of how to gain grace, right? Mind you, now there's a special situation here. Just like the Levites going before the Holy of Holies, and just like Yisrael not coming up past a certain point at the Mount, at Mount Horeb, right? There's an ordinance that's also here that has to do with anybody coming before the king. All right. So let's take a look at it here in Esther 4:11. It says, all the king's servants and the people of the king's province do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king in the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of this, to put him to death, except such whom the king shall hand out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come unto the king these 30 days. So if y'all don't understand the story of Esther, you know, we got this crazy dude called Haman that's out here trying to kill Mordecai. Mordecai is, if I'm not mistaken, Esther's adopted father. Um, Haman is trying to kill not only Mordecai but all the Jews because he sucks. Let's just say that. Now, Haman does not know Esther's relationship to Mordecai. But if Haman goes before the king to practically kill all the Jews that's there, then that would include Esther. But Mordecai is requesting for Esther to go before the king, and Esther is like, "Look, if I go before the king, I'm going to die." Mordecai is like, "Look, you're going to die anyway if you don't go before the king." You know what I'm saying? And make this request since it's been shown that you have favor. But even in this situation, it's known that she's putting her life on the line in this particular situation. All right. So how is she going to gain grace or favor in the sight of the king? So here we see in Esther 5:1-3, it says, now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king house, in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house, and the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king unto her, what wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. So Esther presented herself before the king, but she did something before she presented herself before the king. She had to get right. She had to put her royal garment on. And not only did she have to put her royal garment on, she had to stand and go to a particular place, in the inner court in order to present herself to the king, right? You see, she didn't try to, you notice that she did not try to go in any underhanded way. Now, we already know that Esther was exceptionally beautiful, but it's some qualities of Esther that we're going to talk about a little bit later that the king loved, right? But we also know that even though that she knew that at one certain point in time that she had the king's favor, she did not get big-headed. She did not get big-headed and be like, oh, I found favor, I get to go in there and do whatever I want. I could just go. No, she even in this situation was very meek. Ooh, I gave another gem on that. But anyway, so now because that she's pleasing in his sight again, so she gained grace, which means she has favor in his sight. With favor comes something. There's something that comes with favor. So let's continue. In Esther 7:2-3, it says, and the king said again unto Esther on the second day of the banquet. So Esther wanted to have a banquet with the king. Do something for the king. She's going to present her case. but she had a 3-day banquet with the king. And the king has been asking her, like Esther, what is it exactly? Like, what is it? What is it that you need from me? But she didn't even bring it on the first day. So now on the second day of wine, what is thy petition, Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor, we've seen this before, if thy sight, O king, if it please, if I please you, the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. We getting to something here. Because of this request, Esther was able to go and present her case. And I forgot to add the slide. I apologize for that. Esther was able to go and present her case to the king, exactly what Haman was trying to do. Once the king knew this, he flipped everything around and gave Esther support and got Haman up out of there. King loved Esther so much. She had favor, and I like to tell people, if you want to understand favor is like knowing that you are someone's favorite. Because you got a best friend, you have a favorite friend, you have a favorite food, something that you prefer more than something else. Think about that. You see, favor is where you get the idea of favorite. You have a best friend or a favorite friend, they're closer to you. And usually that favorite friend can ask for favors. You see how that works? Your friend, your favorite friend, has favor with you and asks you of favors. Oh my goodness. And this is exactly what Esther did in this situation. And with favor came support. Just throwing it out there. With favor comes support. So, but this is another example. Let's look at another example, and let's take a look at Nehemiah. Nehemiah finding grace, right? Because they said that grace is unmerited. Unmerited. It may be something that you might not be able to give all your riches or to do all this crazy stuff for, but it's still something that you need to do in order to obtain it. And we're going to look at this in the example of Nehemiah. Nehemiah finding grace. Now, Nehemiah was praying. Let me do this here. Nehemiah was praying to Yah because he was saddened by the report that he was received about Jerusalem, right? So Nehemiah sought Yah in a prayer. And here is where we will see this, right? So Nehemiah 1:11, this is the end. I would encourage you all to read all of Nehemiah chapter 1. It's an amazing, not only, it's such an amazing prayer. So if you want to be better at praying, Nehemiah, all of chapter 1 is how you pray for others and pray for a cause and how to present yourself to Yah. Like, if you want an example or template of how to pray, Nehemiah chapter 1 is amazing for that. But let's take a look at this. So Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 11, this is the end of the chapter. He says, "O master, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of thy servants who desire to fear thy name, and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the cupbearer." Right? You see, he's making a request to Yah. He's praying before Yah that he will be able to make a request to the king, that the king may show him mercy, right? You see, and to grant him mercy in the sight of this man. So what man is he talking about? Let's go over to chapter 2. So now, chapter 2, Nehemiah, verse 1 says, "And it comes to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of Artaxerxes," the Persians, right? "The king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence." Basically, what is being said here is that Nehemiah, as he's been serving the king, he's His countenance has been fine. He hasn't made a fuss. He hasn't done anything. He's just always been pleasant in the king and his service of the king. So he's the cupbearer. So for those who don't know what the cupbearer is someone that that, like, if you can look at Yosef and the cupbearer in the chief baker, right? There's some it's the person that's really near, probably on the right hand of the king, that basically brings his wine to him, right? But he's near to the king, right? It's somebody that is very trustworthy, that is very near to the king, right? So the king sees Nehemiah often. So Nehemiah is sad, right? Let's see how this plays out. So Nehemiah, continuing in verse 2 through 3, it says, "Wherefore the king said unto me, why is their countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of the heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, where my fathers are buried, lieth in waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire?" So right here, Nehemiah is letting them know of the state or the status that his homeland is in. So, and this is the reason why he's sorrowful, man. He's like, man, I'm hearing about, I got a report about my homeland. I'm saddened because of what's going on there, right? So, continuing. Now, this is the response of the king. It says in verses 4 and 5, it says, "Now the king said unto me, for what dost thou make a request? So I prayed to Elohim of heaven, and I said unto the king, if it please the king, if it please, you see that again, pleases the king, and if thy servant have found favor," oh my goodness, "in the sight, and that thou wouldest send me unto Yehuda, unto thy city of my father's sepulchre, that I may build it." So he's saying, man, look, if I've been pleasant, if I've pleased you, and I have found favor in your sight, that thou wouldst please send me unto Yehuda, unto the city of my father, to my father's sepulchre, that I might build it up. I want to build up my city, and you care about me. If I found favor, please let me go to rebuild my city, my homeland. Again, we're seeing how this is working out. So let's continue in verse 8. He also made a request and says, now, and he says, also, if you send me, can you please send a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace, which appertaineth to the house, right? And for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my Elohim upon me. Nehemiah made a request of the king, and not only did the king grant this, but he gave him supplies to help to build. So not only did he send them, but he gave him support. He gave him support. When you find favor, you see, we're starting to see that in finding favor, with favor comes favors, support. He's asking them, like, man, you the king, man, you got it all. Help me if you can. If I found favor, help me out. And we see that he has. So, and we understand what happened with Nehemiah, and but I just wanted to present this and show you. So the question is, what is favor actually? I want you to think, like, what is favor actually? What comes with favor? So we went from grace, and we know that grace is favor. With favor comes support. So when you have grace, you have favor, and with favor comes support. With favors come favors, and with favor comes support. We're going to go through a couple more verses, verses that we looked at earlier, and I guarantee you, when you swap words around, you will start to have a better understanding of actually what Paul is really saying. You see, how do we receive favors and grace, right? So we seen how it was to present ourselves to a king, right? How to receive favor from a king, right? Now we understand that favors is linked with being pleasing, but let's look at some scripts that support this as well. And this is, let's take a look at Psalms 81, 84:11. So Psalms 84:11 says, "For Yah, our Elohim, is a sun and a shield. Yahuwah will give grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly." Oh, so let's see it again. Yah, our Elohim, is a sun and shield. Yah will give grace and glory. No good thing, no good will he withhold from them that walketh uprightly. So being upright gives you a path to receiving grace and glory, right? You see, so let's continue to the next one. We mentioned Lot right here, right? We mentioned Lot already. And he said, "Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight." And the question was, what exactly did he do to receive grace or favor in Yah's sight? Let's do 2 Peter 2:7-9. "And delivered just Lot," right? This is Yah. Yah delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked, for that righteous man, Lot, dwelling among them in seeing and hearing, vexed his righteous soul from day with the unlawful deeds. And the master knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment. So we understand that the unjust is unpleasing. They're like Vashti, right? And they have a place where they're going to go. They're not going to just be sent away. They're sent to a place of a place of punishment, maybe lake of fire. You know what I'm saying? But I asked the question, what did Lot do? Lot was righteous. Lot was a righteous man. Lot was a righteous man. And in order for you to be a righteous man, you got to do stuff. And some people still might say, yeah, unmerited really just means undeserved. And I agree, because we don't deserve it. But they also will tell you that it's nothing that you really have to do, which is wrong. You see? So let's continue. Genesis 6:8-9. And it says, "But Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahuwah." These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with Elohim. He walked with Elohim, right? So Noah found grace. Noah was just and perfect in his generation and walked with Elohim. What else did he do? What else happened? So Genesis 6:22, "Thus did Noah according to all that Yah commanded him. So did he." Genesis 7:1, "And Yah said unto Noah, Come into the ark, you and all your household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation." Righteousness is being linked to grace here, right? Oh man, I feel sorry for those people that's telling you that you don't have to keep the commandments no more. I ain't trying to poke at nobody. I'm not messing. I don't want no smoke. I don't want nobody to be mad at me. I'm just putting that out there. I'm just putting it I don't want no smoke. I don't want no hatred. I don't want no drama. I'm just putting it out there, for those that's telling you that you ain't got to do something. You see? But you do. So now that we got a better understanding that favor equals support. Favor equals support. When you have favor, you have support. So we know that grace is favor. Don't forget they was interchangeable words. And so when you have grace in the sight of Yah, he gives you support. I'm gonna go back. Just to show what I mean. So now let's kind of flip this around, right? It says, but Noah found grace in the eyes of Yah. Noah found support. Noah found Yah's support because don't forget that Noah was in a situation, the flood was coming. And because he found favor and because he pleased Yah, Yah decided to support Noah. He's supporting him. He's giving him what he needs in order to live the ark of his salvation. He's giving him support. He doesn't want the one that pleases him to die. It's not rocket science, people. The king in Esther didn't want Esther to die. She pleased him, so he supported her. Nehemiah pleased Artaxerxes with his service, and he was just doing what he was supposed to do. Artaxerxes supported him, even gave him lumber. It's not hard. Favor equals support. Grace equals support, or leads to support. So let's continue. So how did Yahusha find favor, right? How did Yahusha find favor? Well, Yahusha was born with favor. You see, Yahusha here, it says, and the word was made flesh, and this is John 1:14, I apologize. And the word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us and beheld his glory, right? It was composed. In the power or the honor of Yah, glory, kabod, honor, power, as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. So he's full of grace, good, full of favor of the Father, which means that he's full of what? The Father he's full of support. You think he's gonna leave his son hanging? That's why he can speak. That's why when he would speak, when Hasatan in Matthew chapter 4 was like, man, you could jump off the top of this building or whatever, and you can fall and you can call on the angels and they will. Yes, that's why the angels will come, because he's full of support. But he does things in the appropriate manner. You see, so. Let's continue. Let's continue here. So, how do you receive favor and grace, right? Matthew chapter 3:17. And lo, a voice from the Shamaim saying, "This is my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased." You see? Yahusha even said it himself. I only do what the Father tells me to do. He's the Word made flesh. He obeys his Father, right? He does things that's pleasing in his sight. That's why he says, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. Matthew 17:5. Why yet he spake. Now this is when you saw that they saw the transfiguration of Yahusha. And he says, while he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. Now there's a commandment. Hear ye him. In other translations, it will say, keep his words. Keep his words. With this special favor comes this Luke 20:42. And David himself said in the book of the Psalms, Yah said unto my master, sit thou on my right hand. You see? And continuing with that, he says, and I shall make your enemies, make my enemies, I shall make your enemies my footstool, right? So, because, you see, Yahusha is better than a cupbearer. Yahusha is better than a queen. And even he sits on the right hand of Yah. And he has favor in the sight, right? He has favor in the sight of Yah. So what must we continue to do? Well, we must pick up our cross and follow him, right? I would think so. Now, let's talk about the grace of Yah, right? Let's talk about the grace of Yah. We went over these verses. Now that we have a better understanding, we went over these verses earlier. Now, with our better understanding of what grace is, now we get to put two and two together with this, right? So it says, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is Yahushua Mashiach. So we get to see what is Yah's grace for us. So now, if we take out grace, we'll have a better understanding. I should have did this prior to, but I apologize. So it says, being justified freely by his support, through Yahushua Mashiach, right? Through the redemption that is in Yahushua Mashiach. So he is supporting us. He's supporting us by sending Yahushua HaMashiach. That is Yah's expression of support for his people. Is this starting to make more sense? Give me a 1 in the chat if this is starting to make more sense. Give me a 2 if I'm just off my rockers. If I'm off my rockers and you still don't understand or I'm wrong, just give me a 2. I've been wrong before now. I'm not tripping off that. I've been wrong before. I just want to be better, Now, 1 Corinthians 1-4, it says, I thank my Elohim always on your behalf for the support of Yah, which is given you by Yahushua HaMashiach. Is the support that Yah is giving us. It's not confusing. See, Abba Yah sent Yahushua for our redemption. Abba gave Noah the commandments and the instructions to build the ark in order to live. He found grace in Yah's sight. He gained favor and he got support. Abba sent Yahushua because he knew that we was confused. Yahushua showed us how to walk. And he told us to pick up his cross and follow him. Now, the whole time we have the witness of Yahushua. We have the power and the examples of Yahushua. We have to see it, and they was able to see it in real time how to do this thing, not just read it, but to see it. You see? Now continuing, now we get to understand, 1 Corinthians 15:10. You see? But by the favor of Elohim, I am what I am. And his favor, his favor or his support, which was bestowed upon me, was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all, yet not I, but the support of Yah, which was with me. You see, he clearly is saying that I'm able to do this because of the power, and because of Yah's support. He's not leaving me orphan. I'm able to do all things when I have the support of Yah. That's why we can grow in faith, because Yah, with Yah's support, we can do all things. You see? I pray that this is blessing y'all, man. I'm getting excited. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I ain't got too much left. Now this goes back to the prophecy, right? This goes back to the prophecy in Zechariah 12:9-10. I got to bring this out because my Ak Yoel loves Zechariah. So just to put a smile on his face, I'm going to bring something from Zechariah just for the Ak, just to bless the Ak, because he loves Zechariah. So I do too. I think we all love this word, right? So Zechariah 12:9-10, it says, "And it shall come to pass in that day, I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem, and I will pour out upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication." See, the spirit of grace, the spirit of favor. He's going to give you the spirit of support and of supplication, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Who is that they pierced? Who is it that our ancestors pierced? "And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as of one that is bitterness for the firstborn." Who we pierced? Who our ancestors pierced? See, also, he said he's going to give us the spirit of support, of grace. What do you think the spirit of grace is? Kodesh spirit, Ruach HaKodesh. It's the Ruach HaKodesh. The spirit of support. It's the Ruach HaKodesh. It's a spirit to support. It's what we need in order for us to get a better understanding, because it says, "I'll teach you all things." So we, with the Ruach HaKodesh, we will learn to have a humbled heart. We will have a better understanding of Torah, and we will learn how to be pleasing in his sight. And we will learn to gain favor. The Father is giving us support, not just through Yahusha, but he's giving us support through the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. So John 1:17. That's right, teaches us all things. John 1:17. "For the law was given by Moshe, but grace and truth come by Yahusha HaMashiach." Because Yahusha is the support. Yes, we received the law through Moshe, but the law can't save us, Mishpachah. The law can't save us in this given time. The law can't save us in this given time. But Yahushua, that's why, the Father knew what we needed. And now it makes sense. Through favor, by being pleasing in his sight, by keeping the commandments, we receive the support. And that's also in the truth, because the Father's not a liar. And it came by Yahushua HaMashiach. It came by Yahushua HaMashiach. Deuteronomy 7:9. "Knoweth therefore that Yahuwah thy Elohim is Elohim," right? "The faithful Elohim, and which keepeth the covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to the 1,000th generation." To all the way to the 1,000th generation. Yah is the king. Yah is the king of the heaven and the earth, right? The ruler of all things and the creator of all. You must understand this to understand the power of his majesty. With a word, things change, and nothing can be stopped by him, right? So if you have his favor, then that means you have his support. And nothing can stop him or cause him to fail. Nothing on earth, nor from the Shamahim, nor king or any so-called superpower, not even death, because he is the creator of life. Death only exists because he allows it to. And even he puts death away in Revelations chapter 20. So that's what we know from 1 John 3:22. Whatsoever we ask, we receive of him because we keep his commandments and to do those things that are pleasing in his sight. So, Mishpachah, if you're seeking to find grace, we must seek to do the things that are pleasing in the sight of the Most High Yah. Because we must humble ourselves. Like Esther, we must be meek. We must be clean because we can't even come to the tabernacle unless we're clean. But how do we even become clean if we don't know how to become clean? See, the Father gave us instructions in order for us to keep. Now, when it comes to unmerited favor, they're right. We don't deserve the favor. We don't deserve his favor. But you know what? It's things that we must do for him to even have a liking of us, right? I told, and for y'all to have a better understanding, at least Abba will be compelled and have compassion upon us because we please him. If we please him, he will show us compassion. Will it be every single time? Maybe not. But he said that he would. For a final example, I told the Ak, right? I told the Ak that if you want to tell somebody something, let's say you want to give somebody this word, right? And you go and you can have on the cleanest, you can have on the cleanest clothes. You could be as fresh as you want to be. You can have the cleanest car. But if you walk up to somebody and your breath stink, ain't nobody going to want to hear anything that you got to say like that. They're going to be trying to avoid you. Why? Because you are not pleasing to them. It don't matter what you're trying to tell them. They will not receive what you're saying. It would not be easily received. If you offend people, they are not going to want to hear what you're trying to say because you haven't gained favor in their sight. Matter of fact, if you be wroth with somebody or you offend somebody, this is a psalm. I know Netanyahu could probably post it in the chat. But if the person that you offend, they will put up a stronghold, a fortress against you, against your word. They ain't trying to hear nothing. They will fortify themselves against you. So let's, Mishpachah, do the things that's pleasing in Yah's sight in order for us to be blessed, in order for us to be pleasing in his sight, in order for us to receive his grace, which is to receive his favor, which is to become his favorite peculiar people that we were supposed to be, kings and priests. And also with the favor, we have favorites in which we can ask favors. That way we can pray to Abba and he will hearken to us. He will hear our requests. So Mishpachah, I pray that this blessed you, and I pray that you now you will not be confused about how to gain favor. You won't no longer be confused about it. You know exactly what you need to do. At least you'll increase your chances.
One of the ways that the Most High has blessed me this year is by bringing like-minded individuals into my life that I can pray, read, and fast with. I'm super grateful for all of them. Shout out to FOTW.